Obandis. She heard footsteps in the empty cabin beside hers every night at 2 a.m. The particular rhythm of someone moving through a familiar space without turning on the lights. On her final morning, she described this to the caretaker. He took her to the cabin next door, opened it, asked her to describe exactly what she had heard. Because what she described matched the movements of someone who had stayed there 30 years ago and had never checked out. Don't listen too carefully to whatever is on the other side of your wall tonight. It is time for chapter 168. Sound travels through the walls of old buildings in ways that newer construction does not allow. The particular intimacy of thin walls and wooden floors, the awareness of another presence through the material between you. Most sounds that reach us through walls have ordinary explanations, but occasionally a sound arrives from a space that should be empty, with the specific character of deliberate movement, of someone who knows exactly where they are going in the dark, of footsteps that follow a route, not wandering, not random, but the particular economy of someone crossing a familiar room without needing to see it. That specificity is the detail that stays. A woman had taken a room at a lakeside resort during the off-season. She had wanted quiet. The resort provided it, most cabins shuttered, the main building running on minimal staff, the lake gray and still in the autumn light. Her cabin was at the end of a row of identical units, all but hers closed for the season. She settled in easily. The first night was quiet. The second night she woke at 2 a.m. to a sound from the cabin beside hers. Footsteps, unhurried, moving in a pattern she could follow through the wall, from what she estimated was the bedroom, through the main room to what she assumed was the kitchen area. A pause, then back, the same route. The lights in the cabin beside hers remained off throughout. If these stories have found their way to you, if you find yourself returning to this quiet room, there is something small you can do. Like and subscribe. It tells me, and whatever else watches from this room, that you were here and that you intend to find your way back. If you have a story of your own, Granny is always listening, watching, waiting. It happened the following night, and the night after, always 2 a.m., always the same route through the cabin beside hers, always the same pause at what she had decided was the kitchen, always the same return, always the lights off. On the fourth night she timed it, 23 minutes. On the fifth night she timed it again, 23 minutes. The consistency was the most unsettling element, not the footsteps themselves, but the precision of them, the same route, the same duration, the same pause, as though whatever was moving through that cabin was following a routine so established that it required no variation. Izui, that precision. Uncomfortable in the specific way of something that knows exactly what it is doing and has been doing it for a very long time. I wonder if you heard footsteps from an empty room beside yours at exactly the same time every night. How many nights before you mentioned it to someone? If you have a story of your own, This quiet room has space for your experiences too. Granny is always listening. She mentioned it to the caretaker on her final morning. He listened to her description carefully. His expression, she told me, did not change in the way she had expected, did not register surprise or skepticism, simply listened, with the focused attention of someone receiving information they have been waiting for. When she finished, he asked her to describe the route in as much detail as she could. She did. The direction of the footsteps, the sequence of rooms she had estimated them passing through, the location of the pause, the return route. He listened to all of it, then asked her to come with him. He took her to the cabin beside hers, unlocked it, opened the door, led her inside. You are still here. Good. Some stories need a witness all the way to the end. I wonder if someone took you inside the room where you had heard the footsteps and asked you to walk the route you had described. Could you do it? The cabin was empty, furniture covered in dust sheets, the air of somewhere closed for longer than a season. He stood in the center of the main room and asked her to walk the route she had described. She did, from the bedroom doorway across the main room to the kitchen. Paused where she had heard the pause, returned. He watched her walk it. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment, then said that what she had described, the route, the pause, the duration, matched the movements of a guest who had stayed in that cabin 30 years ago, a regular visitor who had developed particular habits in the space across many seasons, who had died in the cabin during one of those seasons, who had been found in the kitchen in the morning, after a night when the caretaker at the time had heard footsteps through the wall, following the same route, at 2 a.m. Shak Koi, the kitchen doorway where she was standing, cold in the way of a space that has been returned to many times by something that has not yet found a reason to stop. I think about habit, about the particular grooves that repeated action wears into a space across enough time. The route through a familiar room in the dark, the pause at the kitchen, the return, done enough times that the body knows it without the mind directing it, and about what remains of habit when the body that carried it is gone. Whether the groove in the space persists, whether the route through the familiar room continues to be walked at 2 a.m. for 23 minutes with the lights off, by whatever remains when the person who developed the habit is no longer there to consciously perform it. Simply the habit itself, moving through the dark, following the route, pausing at the kitchen, returning, because that is what is done here, at this hour, in this cabin, as it has always been done. Nda. Some habits outlast the person who formed them. I speak from experience. Another whispered story from Japan, shared quietly here beside the kotatsu. If you stay at an off-season resort and you wake at 2 a.m. to footsteps from the empty cabin beside yours, listen carefully. Note the route, the pauses, the duration, whether the lights come on, whether the footsteps hesitate or move with the economy of someone entirely familiar with the space. And in the morning, tell the caretaker. Describe exactly what you heard, because they may take you to the cabin beside yours, may ask you to walk the route you described, may then tell you who used to walk it 30 years ago, in the dark, at 2 a.m. for 23 minutes, who was found in the kitchen one morning, and who has apparently not been able to stop following the route they wore into that space across many seasons of the same quiet habit. The lights will stay off, the duration will stay the same, because that is what is done there at that hour, as it has always been done. If this story stayed with you, if the dark or the shadow feels a little closer tonight, you know where to find me. I am always here beside the kotatsu, watching, waiting. And if you wish others to find their way here too, there is something small you can do. Like and subscribe. I would not object. And if you have a story of your own, this quiet room has space for your experiences too. Granny is always listening.